So you actually, when you started in your career, you worked at Nike. That's your area of emphasis, consumer brand marketing. How did you get into that area? I mean, you obviously went to undergrad. You were a first-generation college student. What did you do?
You know, I was the classic kid from Montana in a big family where college was about a scholarship. And I was lucky enough to be a good student that went to a great liberal arts college called Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon, which is where the headquarters of Nike is. I happened to be a starving student, so I waitressed at night to pay for rent. And about the second semester I was there, the head of my economics department ended up eating at my restaurant and figuring out that I was a starving student. He also happened to be the Asian economic advisor at Nike, and he convinced me he would pay me more. I was a good student if I would give him my work time at Nike. So I was in a very atypically sort of coveted position, I would say, when I graduated. Nike said, "We love you. Come work for us. What would you like to do?" And I said, well, I didn't really think that I was going to go into business. At the time, I thought I was going to go solve the Cold War. Didn't know they'd do it without me. But I needed to pay off student loans, and I had a very practical reality about jobs. And I said, "You're known for marketing. I'm going to start there." And 20 years later, I have a love affair with consumer brand lifestyle marketing.
How long did you stay at Nike? Because I know you went and eventually got an MBA and actually a JD, and we'll dig into that in a second. But how long did you stay at Nike before you decided, I need to go get some business background or an MBA?
I went through several steps at Nike. I started out in marketing and helped develop what you know today as Nike Women's Brand, but it was before Nike Women's Brand existed. Then I went overseas for them and helped them really think about how does this U.S. company become a global brand in places like Europe and not just a U.S. brand with international division.
Where'd you live?
In Amsterdam. And then I came back and was part of the team that helped them figure out how to be their own retailer and develop this little concept called Nike Towns. So I had some pretty cool experiences there because I moved from sort of classic marketing to broader global marketing back to channel execution. And I loved it, but I had this kind of hankering at this point that I could see what my life was going to be in 10 years, and I was very lucky to love where I was and have a great experience. But I wanted to build it myself. And I didn't ever tell people I'm going to go off and be an entrepreneur. I didn't know that's what I wanted. But I also knew that I had kind of happened into business, fallen in love with it, was good at it, but that I didn't have some of the skills I should have, and I should go back and really understand financial statements differently than I did at the time. So I made a decision to go back to graduate school, and I got my law degree and my MBA.
At what point, given this whole stage, and I know you also eventually worked at a startup, Gesundheit, which was a retailer which branded environmental control products. So at what point did you decide, I want to start my own company?
It was Gesundheit that got me out of law because it was actually one of my investors was a client who invested in that company. And they said, you know, Allie will make you a deal. You don't have to represent us on this if you'll come flip back over and be the head of marketing here and help this. It was a Stanford MBA's concept, actually roll the concept out. And I knew that I loved consumer brands, so I was kind of looking for the right consumer brand idea, and I didn't have my own yet. You know, I didn't know I'd have one. Gesundheit was the tipping point for me of what Giggle is today, in that there was a lifestyle brand focused on a broad macroeconomic trend of healthier living. And what was most interesting as the head of marketing there is the segment of our products that we sold to children, parents, of course, for their children. And I liked everything about what I saw. I saw voracious new customers who were looking for better solutions. I saw educated parents that had a different agenda than they felt like they were getting from the choices they had in the market. And frankly, I liked the economics. It was 3 times the transactions of any adult purchase we sold. And I started to put together my thinking on that. I had a hunch, and I had a juvenile industry hunch at that point. So I decided to go get myself deep into the juvenile industry, and I took a position to help build brand extension strategies for Child Magazine and Parents Magazine, which was then owned by G&J Publishing. And my job was to get to know every juvenile manufacturer, aka advertiser for those, and build a brand extension strategy to actually sell them, and we sold them to Meredith Corporation. So I kind of got a paid homework assignment. Why I
So this
started
was a very
deliberate
deliberate decision on your part.
It was, because I had been building brands and building channels for other companies for my whole career. And then I started to see this cut of the consumer, that lifestyle consumer, that mother market that I had always been focused on, but focused on their kids, and I had a hypothesis about what was missing. And my hypothesis, which frankly still holds true, was you have an aging consumer demographic. Today's parent is closer to 30 than 20. And good, bad, or otherwise as a parent, that's not my job to comment on. They are a different consumer. You know, they're at a different point in life. At the same time, you've had a proliferation of products available to for us to sell to people with kids. There's a lot of stuff. And you have macroeconomic trends like demands for less toxicity, for healthier products, for more responsible products, for potentially buying less stuff, but things that last longer. And that combination led me to see that there's a big hole in what I think in the juvenile industry is, which is where the giggle concept was born.
More on Wing's business strategy when we come back.
So the plan was we would do strategic angel, where they could be smart money, more than just money. People that got what I'm doing and could be networks for me to get to the right next level.